Mayor of Louisville, Mike Horn. And we have a few county staff folks that I'd like to recognize today. We have actually both of our deputy county managers. We have Damon Sanders Pratt over there and Chantel Robinson. We also have our county attorney, Gordon Watkins. He has a suit. Where is Gordon? Oh, way over there. Very good. And we also have our clerk, our county clerk, not clerk of Superior Court, the clerk to the Board of Commissioners, Ashley Matthews. And we also have Chris Weevil, who is our Parks and Recreation Director. So that's great. I think I've sort of got the high spot. Oh, we also have Ed Campbell, our Communications Director. He told me they wanted to be behind the scenes. So I appreciate all of the work that he's done, and certainly happy to have him. Our Parks and Recreation staff shared with me that a number of pickleball enthusiasts have been out here weekly, some daily, to sort of hold vigil over the construction of these courts. So I kind of feel like they ought to be welcoming me out here instead of me welcoming you all here, because they've been here. I will say I am a tennis player, still play twice a week. These are still holding up. And I'm looking forward to the Winston-Salem Open tournament that starts tomorrow. But I have played pickleball probably, 20, 30 times. And I certainly enjoy it, but I can tell you this. As a tennis player, that issue of not hitting the ball in the kitchen, I make a repeated violations of doing that. And I did finally learn that you need this kind of, for me, I have to stand behind the kitchen. So then I feel like that's like my safety place, and I don't ever want to get there unless I'm not quick enough to get to many of the bounce balls, but hey, I do my best. But it doesn't really matter what kind of sport we're interested in. There's kind of room for all of us and everything. And by the way, we're all about trying to stay healthy and keep moving. And so we have a whole lot of people out here that are still moving around and doing this, and what a great setting. Yes. I haven't been here this time of the day in a while. Boy, for in the middle of hot August, this shade is really delightful. So I do want to thank Damon Sanders Pratt, particularly for preparing some remarks about some of the pickleball facts that I knew nothing about. I suspect that all of you do know, but some of you might not. But I hope you enjoy these remarks that he collected together. They're really great. He said that the game was founded in 1965 by Joe Pritchard, and he was a politician from Bainbridge Island in Washington State. And the saying goes that very few people knew any of the legislation that Representative Pritchard worked on in Washington. But by golly, they knew that he invented pickleball. So he said one summer he had a 13-year-old son, and he was talking to his son, and he said, the son quotes and said, "I was complaining to my dad that there was nothing to do on Bainbridge Island." I'm sure those of the children never ever heard that. And then of course the dad said the usual dad thing. Well, when we were kids, we created our own games. We discovered them and made them. And so the son, and a little smart aleck, says, "Oh, really? Then why don't you go make me a game?" And pickleball was born. So by the way, where did the name pickleball come from? I'm sure some of you know. I had no idea. It was not named after the Pritchard family dog, which was adopted in 1968, because the dog was named after pickleball 3 years later. It said also neither the paddles, nets, court markings, or ball are oblong like a pickle. And it would be too obvious if the name had something to do with cucumbers preserved in brine, a pickle, as many people assume. But actually the name comes from a nautical term, and I suspect some of you know that. In rowing, a crew made up of unrecruited rowers thrown together at random to compete in races is known as a pickle boat. or a crew made up of leftover rowers no one wanted on their team?
That's us. That's us. That's us.
There we go. Because Joel Pritchard created his new game out of things he found around the house, leftovers, as it were, a wiffle ball, table tennis paddles, and a badminton net. His wife, Joan, dubbed his new game, Pickleball. It was made up of leftovers, just like the members of a rowing pickle boat. So after this modest beginning, 58 years ago, pickleball has proven it's not a no-hit wonder.
Very nice, very nice. Bada boom.
No pun intended. No pun intended. Here we go. Today's ribbon cutting and turnout is indicative of the strides the game has taken into popular culture. Now, this is pretty fast. Although before today, there were only 19 dedicated pickleball courts throughout Forsyth County. One can see pickleball players setting up nets to play on the basketball court outside Woodland Hall at Tanglewood Park, on dual-use courts at city parks like Old Town on Chatelaine, or Polo Park, at county parks like Walkertown Community Park and Union Cross Park, to name a few. A friend of mine, I was talking to him about 2 weeks ago, I said, going out to the pickleball dedication that we're having, pretty soon. He said, you know what? He says, I live on a cul-de-sac, and there are 4 houses. He says, 3 of those houses, people come out with a net and set up a pickleball game in their driveway. I said, and they're all 3 playing at the same time and not together. He said, they all 3 come out and play at the same time. So anyway, these new regulation courts at Joanie Moser Memorial Park represent the only 9 dedicated pickleball courts in the county recreation system.
So far.
Thank you, so far. With its shaded benches, beautiful new surfacing, fencing separating the courts, I must admit I did talk about that particular issue because I hate it in tennis when you have to run after balls, and pickleball to get so close, it is tough. So that was great. With its shaded benches, beautiful, all those kind of things. Now we, Forsyth County, have established ourselves as one of the best facilities in the area. So, the Sports and Fitness Industry Association has noted that pickleball has been the fastest growing sport in the United States in 2021, 22, and 23, with now a total of an estimated 8.9 million players in the United States over 6 years of age. That's an increase from 4.8 million in 2022. Pretty fast. Pretty fast. With annual growth like that, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance that all the commissioners support pickleball. We support pickleball. All right. Now it's a pleasure to introduce Vice Chair Glory Wisenhunt. She's going to actually recognize some of the folks who brought the need for these beautiful courts to our attention. So, Vice Chair.